Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Wahida Al-Hadrami, and I work in the cultural and creative industry sector at the Ministry of Culture and Youth. The Ministry of Culture and Youth is a proud supporter of the Creative Career Days by Jameel Arts Center for the second year. And in 2021, the Ministry of Culture has launched a 10-year national strategy for the cultural and creative industries. And platforms such as this event play a very important role in raising awareness amongst youth and connecting students and creative professionals to academic institutions and the wider industry. I will start off by playing a brief video to share with you today to give you a few more details about the national strategy before we go ahead and begin our panel.
صاحب السمو السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته رئيس الدولة
50 successful years cultivated a foundation for culture and creativity. Now, we move into the future. A future that enables our creative economy to fulfill an ambitious vision that has always believed in the creative talents of our nation. And that vision enters a new phase with the National Strategy for the Cultural and Creative Industries, a first in the Arab world. The strategy will aim to introduce policies that enable the creative ecosystem, implement the principles of the 50-year charter, and prioritize the creative economy within the nation's agenda. We are creating new catalysts for a vibrant cultural and creative sector and paving the way for it to become one of the top 10 performing sectors contributing to the UAE national economy. The next 10 years of our advancement begins with collaboration. As we pledge to work with our strategic partners to deliver 40 initiatives that will accelerate the development of our culture and creative industries, with a holistic approach focusing on 16 initiatives to encourage talent and creatives, 10 initiatives to support professionals, and 14 initiatives to enable the business environment. A new chapter has begun, where culture and creativity sit at the heart of our economy and imagination. A time to stand united with all our voices and all our ambitions, with a vision towards a creative UAE.
Thank you. Thank you. So as you might be aware, the cultural and creative industries, or better known as CCI, are among the fastest growing economic sectors in the world today. And the UAE government, on both a local and national level, is focused on building a thriving CCI ecosystem in the country and is aiming to make these industries to be among the top 10 performing sectors by 2031. Before we begin, I'd like to please check in with our audience today and see a show of hands of who here are high school students. Okay, university students, great, and industry professionals, great. So in today's panel titled Crafting Your Creative Journey, we will delve into the personal journeys of how two established creative professionals have carved their own paths to build a successful career within the field of art and culture. We will touch upon what influenced their choices, the challenges they overcame, and hear about the steps to take to embark on a career in the arts. To give you a brief introduction of the inspiring panelists we have with us today, Ahlam Balouki is the CEO of the Emirates Literature Foundation, which was established to nurture a love of literature in the UAE and across the region. She is also director of Emirates Airlines Festival of Literature, which has run for 15 years and is the Middle East's largest celebration of the written and spoken word. Ahlam is also the general manager of ELF Publishing, the publishing house under the Emirates Literature Foundation umbrella, and is the leader of the UAE Wikimedia user group and founder of the Katib Maktub movement, which cultivates free information culture and enriches Arabs, authors' data online. Give a round of applause for Ahlam. Munira Sayegh is an independent curator based in Abu Dhabi. She is the founder of Darwaza Curatorial Lab and is a published author and prominent public voice in the region, highlighting the importance of grassroots initiatives, language, and narrative reclamation with regards to the Gulf. She has curated programming and exhibitions both locally and internationally with organizations such as Abu Dhabi Art, Arts Dubai, 421, Manarat Saadiyat, Expo 2020, and the Middle East Institute, and many, many others. She was previously part of the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi team and is currently part of the Dubai Collection Steering and Curatorial Committee. And she currently sits on the advisory board for the NYU Abu Dhabi Art Gallery. Let's give our panelists a show of hands, please. Thank you. So Ahlam, maybe we can go ahead and start with you. One can say that there's no specific handbook for creative professionals. Share with us your story on how you turned your passion for writing and literature into a profession.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here today. Thank you to the Jameel Art Center for this wonderful event. I really fell into it by default. My education actually has nothing to do with arts and culture. I studied hospitality management, and I used to work in hotels previously in a marketing role, and then that led me to working for the tourism board, where initially I was looking after Dubai as a festival destination in all of our marketing campaigns, and that's sort of the link to festivals and understanding a bit more about the festival landscape. And then eventually I played different roles in the tourism board, and personally I had a difficult situation where my mother passed away, and then situations like that always make you reflect and say, what's life about, what's happening, what am I spending all this time working towards, especially if you work long hours. And I think in that moment I chose to leave my job, which was on the rise, and I had been promoted 3 times in 4 years. It was if I'd kept going, I would have kept growing. But I think sometimes in life it's really important to stop and reflect and say, yes, I'm growing, but am I growing in the right area? Is this where I see myself long term? And I think at that point I made the decision that it wasn't, and I was lucky enough. I know it's not easy to leave your job. We have financial commitments and things like that. But at that point, I was lucky enough to be able to make that decision, just take a step back and reassess. And then when I was with the tourism board, I used to volunteer with the festival, and I used to actually be connected with this world because I love reading and I loved writing as well. Working in marketing, I did a very different kind of writing, but personally, I would take 10-week poetry writing courses online. I would take memoir writing, fiction writing, all sorts of writing I was very interested in. And in that difficult period, especially, I read a lot more. And somehow, the universe made the Emirates Literature Foundation call me and say, look, we have a project that Dubai Tourism has recommended you for, and they've said that you're available. Are you interested? It's a project that requires someone to just attract students from universities in the region to the festival. And it was something I felt that I could do well. It was in line with my previous job, but at the same time in this world of literature and the festival that I was so in love with already. And so I walked into this house in Shindaga where the office is, and it looks nothing like an office. It looks like a home. And once I stepped in, I knew that I wasn't going to leave this place anymore. And I grew. I ended up becoming the festival director within 6 months, and then this year the CEO of the foundation. And so just taking that step back initially was a step down from the role that I was in, but I very quickly was able to accelerate my career in the right direction and end up where I am today.
Amazing. So could I say that maybe taking a step back sometimes is important for you to actually see where you're going in the next few years? And would you say that was your turning point to where you are right now?
I think taking a step back and then also spending time doing things that are within your interest area. So if I wasn't taking all these writing courses, coming to LitFest, volunteering in LitFest, reading, I think all of that also immediately helped me identify that this is the right path. So I think whatever your interest is, it's important to not just practice it, at home, but engage with communities that are also engaging with the same sort of interest. You'll meet people, you network with people, and it opens opportunities and kind of pushes you into the path of where you want to be.
Right, right. And what would you say is your biggest challenge so far in your career?
People management, I think, is the most difficult thing. Just understanding. It's one of those things where we learn a lot of skills in school, but we don't learn the school of life skills of how to encourage people, how to get the best out of people, or how to handle different personalities, how to create a team that complements each other. The people management part, I think, is the most difficult part of any industry that we're in. But once you get the right team, then there's no stopping what you can achieve.
Absolutely. I was in an interview a while back, interviewing someone, and actually my colleague asked, what's your star sign? And it goes down to the details of, managing people is also ensuring that the culture within the team is as smooth or as peaceful and harmonious as it can be. When it comes to education, what would you say are important education paths or training programs to take, maybe that we can share with a few of the industry professionals in the room with us here today?
Yeah, I think it's different for everyone, but what I would say is education is a personal journey. So it's not, for me, it's not necessarily the structured education system where you go to major in a certain... You can educate yourself every day, and reading is a big part of that journey. And I think that's why I love this space and this industry, because there's nothing that you can't educate yourself on in the world that we live in today. And I think no matter who you are or what you've achieved, some of the most successful people in the world read hundreds of books every year and challenge themselves to up that number every year and spend 4 hours a day reading. And I think that for me is the real education, in always challenging your thinking, always challenging what you know, and also as responsibility for the next generation. As a new mother, I'm thinking about this a lot, where if I just limit to teaching my child what I know, I'm not doing her justice. I need to keep on acquiring knowledge and helping myself grow so that I can give her more and more, because she's going to be completely reliant on me in the early part of her life. So we have a responsibility for the next generation as well, to keep reading and remain curious and challenge our thinking every single day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ahlam. Munira, maybe we can move over to you. Can you share with us your career journey, and how has your education background played a role?
Absolutely. I think I'll start with education. I think, Ahlam, you hit the nail on the head that life is it is a school. You constantly learn. And as my almost 4-year-old niece always asks me, she's like, when are you ever going to finish from school? Because she always sees me with these writing deadlines or reading books. And I think that obviously that curiosity really fed my educational practice at the very beginning. I studied law for a year and then decided that this is not for me. Initially, I wanted to go into art school. It was definitely a battle, I think, not with my mother, who's extremely supportive, but with my father, who doesn't have his head wrapped around the arts. So I did a year of law. I finished. I told him, here's my year, and now I'm going into art history. And the question became, what are you going to do with that? Imagine 2007, and that's such an obscure subject. And I learned a lot, obviously, while I was at university, and I was very much concerned with archaeology and sort of artifacts and just more historical, I would say, subjects. And then eventually, sort of a semester in, I was able to answer my father with that question. I told him, I was like, I go into a classroom, I am shown a single object, and from that single object, I am able to see everything about that society, the religion, the history, how the roads worked, what they ate, when they slept, So you really begin to realize that these objects tell a story and they hold a history. And so that progressed with time, and then I moved to New York. While I was in New York, I got lost, and I fell upon a space where I saw a bunch of people, and I was just praying that I would find a cab that I could get into. My phone was dead, I was panicked, and when I saw the group of people, lo and behold, I found a friend from high school.
Okay.
Kuwaiti girl, she took me in, and it was an exhibition, one of the first exhibitions of the GCC collective. And so I walked in, and she started to show me this art, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And you begin to realize...
What year was that in?
This was 2012.
Okay.
And I say this is like my turning point into contemporary art. And it was just basically, I drank the Kool-Aid real quick when I got there. I was just, I was just immediately so immersed in the stories. And I'm like, wow, this is our voice. These are our stories. This is our generation. We, again, for the future generation, have to be able to tell our story, And so I became extremely interested in that. And then, of course, I moved back home a year and a half later. And then I started working within the cultural sphere. And yeah, the journey kind of, I guess, began then. Yeah.
Super interesting. There's actually a quote I'd like to share with everyone today, and it says, "Art is not freedom from discipline, but disciplined freedom." Take us through how you took a leap of faith and left a full-time job in a reputable cultural organization to pursue your passion independently, and how was your experience in taking that decision?
It's been an exciting experience, alhamdulillah, and a very giving experience. I have 2 of my team members here, and I'm always very proud to have that. I think I've always known what I wanted, and it's become more clear year after year. When I was working sort of within government, I realized that there are other goals and end results, and I always go back to this moment that I had when I walked into that gallery, where you're turning heads, you're bringing stories to life, and that to me was what I considered the most important thing. And so you realized, over time, I first worked at NYU. And then I had my first curatorial project with Art Dubai, actually, and I was just thrown in the deep end, because the main curator was in and out of the space, and then I just started working, and I started exploring what it means to be a curator, kind of like thrown into it, as you said, and I started to really realize that curating is a matter of listening, it's a matter of sharing, extending, and really asking the right questions. So curiosity becomes key. And I was like, I think I could get into this. And then from that, I ended up working with the Guggenheim, and I realized, of course, the importance of establishing these collections. But then what about the ground? What about what happens on the ground? How do we instigate? How do we really cultivate true stories that start from seeds to trees, And not to say that we don't have a history that we can fall back on. We have an immense history. And to my luck, the year that I was curating at Art Dubai, the artist in residence was Muhammad Ahmed Ibrahim. And so I ended up learning so much that I didn't know. So my main kind of focus became, how do we make this information accessible, and how do we continue this legacy via our generation? And so I decided to take a leap of faith and just kind of jump in to that reality of sort of narrative reclamation, really understanding what the ground has to give and how I can give the ground back, the ground that has nurtured me and given me so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. So could you say Mohammed was a mentor for you?
I could say that, yes, absolutely. And Muhammad Ahmed, I think, and definitely if I was to mention an individual, Tariq, Allah yarhama, Tariq al-Ghassain, were people who just very much supported every kind of crazy leap that I took. I would just cross-check with them, and they would tell me, if your heart is in it, you will be able to make magic happen. And I really believe that, and especially when you're working in such an emotional sphere, which is the cultural sphere, your heart has to be in it,
Absolutely. I mean, the hours that goes into being in our field, I think if passion isn't behind it, it's very difficult.
Totally.
Would you, I think maybe we can tap into community and family. And obviously, taking the risk of leaving a full-time job, going independent, comes with a lot of sometimes, negative associations within our community. Would you say you faced any challenges from your families or those around you and to convince them that it was a viable career option?
With my family at this point, I had converted my father fully into the arts, and so for me that was the biggest kind of success moment. My mother is super supportive, and both my parents kind of know if I put my head into something, I'm going back to star signs, I'm an Aries, so I'm a stubborn individual, So, I will put everything into making something that I believe happen. And especially when you see that it has happened in the past and that you can partake, but also the path of like sort of independent curating, quote unquote, was not there. There wasn't like a pebbled path that I just could take a stroll through, So I had to pave the path in accordance to what I believed in. So one thing that I talk to my team a lot about is to always have the base of ethics that we believe in, right. Which is extending and like really opening up doors always, and the piece of cake is a piece of cake, and there are many slices, and everyone can have a slice, and you can extend that via projects that take place within Darwaza. We're always opening up the doors. Darwaza means door, and I just feel like it really fits, fits the idea of the sort of the basis of these ethics, and ethics that I have inherited, I would say, I guess, from both my mentors, where it's like constantly there, always supportive, always making sure that whatever they're gaining, they're also teaching. And then you have a healthy ecosystem. That's give and take.
Right. And how many years would it say it took you to establish yourself as an independent curator?
So my last full-time job was with DCT in 2017. 2017, I left. So math, 6 years, right? Up until this year, I think the first year was really testing, and it really led me to a lot of questions about like sustainability. How do you make this work? And if you wanted to take on more projects, how can you do that as a single individual? And also really realizing that things don't happen via one person, That then pushed me to opening up Darwaza. Now I have a team, and I'm able to take more on via Darwaza and via this sort of collective curating space that we've created. 6 years, I would say.
Interesting. Thank you, Maniro. Going back to Hilam, how would you say your own experiences changed your perspective on the UAE's creative industries? And what lessons have you learned that you could share with our audience today?
Yeah, I think going a little bit deeper into our work as a foundation, very quickly coming into this world, I realized how little opportunities, when I first started 5 years ago, artists but particularly writers, I'll talk about our space, had to practice writing full time and be able to still pay their bills. So most of the well-known writers or talented writers of the UAE have full-time jobs that have nothing to do with their crafts, which means they're not able to progress their skills to the level where they can compete globally, where they have literature that travels, that gets translated, etc. That was one. The other was data online, how little information there was on Arab authors. If there was an Arab author with a common name, there's no way that you would find anything about them or their books. So we start to look into initiatives that could kind of put these pieces of the puzzle together a little bit. I don't know if there are any aspiring writers in the room today, or if you have any talented writer friends. So we started this Writers Fellowship 2 years ago in partnership with Siddiqui Holdings. So Siddiqui is a private organization who's funding this project. We're running it as an organization, First Chapter Fellowship. So every year we take on, we accept submissions, and out of the submissions we only accept 10 writers on this fellowship who have a fictional novel in them, and they would sort of submit the synopsis in the first 2,000 words or any 2,000 words. And that what the program offers is 40 hours of structured learning in developing their stories, in everything to do with becoming a full-time writer. So how to find an agent, how to negotiate your contracts, how to promote yourself, everything you need to know about the business. And the people teaching these courses to the fellows based in the UAE are globally renowned authors who are award winners, who are very successful in their fields around the world. And then each of them also gets a mentor who is a writer who writes in their genre with a lot of success, who has a lot to share and helps them sort of complete their journey of the year. And we also take them on a trip to a more advanced publishing market. So last year we went to New York. This year we're taking them to London. And what we do there is they do 2 days of courses. So in New York, that was with Gotham Writers Center. And in London, they're going to be taking a 2-day course with Faber Academy, one of the most well-known writing centers in the UK. And then we're going to have a networking dinner where we select agents, publishers, commissioning editors from big publishing houses to have dinner with these writers from the UAE where they get to pitch. And it's given them immense opportunities. I can say from year one, we have a locally based writer called Sarah Hamdan whose work was auctioned between 3 of the top 5 publishing houses around the world. She got a big 6-figure deal for her story, and she got a 2-book deal with them out of this fellowship, which is unprecedented for the region. So overnight, not overnight, but over the course of the fellowship, Sarah became a big deal writer whose book is going to come out in 2005 and going to have global distribution. That's the kind of opportunity that we are trying to create. So our focus is on a smaller number of talented people who can achieve big results at the moment. And I think that's the best way to start. And currently, we do have to give them global opportunities in other markets where the publishing industry is healthy and they are able to make money until we fix some of the issues here, one of which is piracy. There's not strong enough laws, especially in the online space, to protect people's, copyright people's work. So a lot of the writers will have free PDFs available online, so they're not able to make money. The publisher doesn't make money. I think that's something that needs to be addressed on sort of a collaborative level between not just the UAE, but across the Arab world. We need to be collaborating with other countries, people in power, to kind of address this piracy issue that's causing a big problem. And then also, of course, we need to create more and more readers along the way.
Yeah, I think just going back on the piracy issue, the recently launched Emirates Orthographic Association Society in Sharjah, right, are busy making strides in that field. So it's interesting to see where we're heading.
Yeah. It's not so much an issue in the UAE, it's more sort of Arab world. But if we are going to sell millions of copies for writers, we do need audiences from the Arab world.
Right. And in your role as CEO of Emirates Literature Foundation, what would you say are some strategies that have helped you advocate for the importance of literature within society and within the wider economy?
Yeah, I think collaboration is, of course, the backbone. Like you mentioned in your video, it's at the heart of everything that we do. So important because we're a non-profit organization, and we have a pool of very talented people who work in our office who are extremely passionate and readers about and love the area that we work in. But I think we have a wealth of ideas, but if the money doesn't come, again, it's difficult to make those ideas come to life. And so we tread carefully, but I think collaboration has really helped us grow and realize a lot of the solutions to the gaps that we see in the market. And then I think awareness, collaboration helps awareness, but I think today content is hugely important. I think no matter what industry you live in, you need to create amazing videos and put them on your platform about whatever your message is so that everybody sees them regularly and getting your message out there. So multimedia and sort of content has become really important.
Right. Thank you, Hlam. Munira, going back to the art market, obviously navigating the art market can be very complex. What advice would you have to share with us for the audience, for artists who are seeking gallery representation and dealing with art market challenges?
I think first and foremost, ask yourself why you're seeking gallery representation. I think we have a huge pool of emerging artists who are in a rush to seek kind of gallery representation and to really understand what that dynamic is. I feel like with gallery representation, it's like a marriage. You really need to be sure of the person that you're about to spend a good chunk of your life with, you know. And so intentions become really important. If your intentions are to just sell and to sell the same thing again and again, that's something that you can, really fall into and get that support via a gallery. I think if you are still kind of building your framework, your mindset, generally having that freedom away from sales, becomes really important, because this is a space of exploration, and you really definitely have to have that freedom to be able to explore, especially as a young artist. You have to be able to really expand your vocabulary, understand what it is that you are trying to say now, like what your pieces are adding to this sort of cultural narrative that we are exploring. With the gallery, of course, you get a lot of support. You get support via being shown in different places. If you have a residency somewhere, generally a gallery can help support, make that happen. So you do have that. It becomes a partnership. But I think for me, the danger becomes young artists getting represented too soon. And how would you define young artists? Again, I think because our art ecosystem is so different to the rest of the world. When you say emerging here, it's very different than emerging anywhere else.
Right.
And when you say mid-career here, it's also very different, and so on and so forth. But I think the moment that you have your stable ground beneath your own feet, only then can you begin to explore sort of gallery representation in a way where you can have a healthy dialogue with the gallerist.
Absolutely. And looking at financial stability, obviously with being a creative freelancer, it's not always as balanced as it can be. But how do you strike a balance between your creative expression and financial stability? Or rather, how do you differentiate between your creative projects that are your passion projects and your bread and butter projects?
I think that's a very, very important question. I think that I realized very quickly, you have to be able to sustain your team and then so all of these financial questions, now that it's not just me on my own, really became extremely pressing. And it's like every year I kind of go through this lull where I'm like, oh no, I don't know if I'm gonna be able, and alhamdulillah, things keep coming my way, and I've been able to sustain Darwaza for the last 3 years financially via doing passion projects. I think the passion projects, there are some that will end up paying me, and I think that's everything that is related to the partners that we have with Darwaza, that hires Darwaza to get to an end result, utilizing art as a tool for conversation. And then on the other side of that, the sort of the heart stuff, which is really important. And that, that is the conversations that we have internally, sort of really trying to generate Darwaza as a thinking space as well. And you have to strike a balance between the two. And I think it's a matter of also putting that passion into what you're doing. I quickly learned that I can't do a project just for a return, like financial return. And that's dangerous, to be that way. But I think at the same time, when you put in the right intentions, when you put in the sort of the right energy into what you've been doing, more of the same kind of partners come to you. So there's a particular pool of individuals who have established who Darwaza is, how we think, how we behave, what our belief and ethics are, and they tell their friends, and their friends tell their friends, and so it's been, alhamdulillah, super great in that sense.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how many full-time members do you have in Darwaza right now?
I have 3. 2 of them are here.
Show of hands. Hello.
And one of them is off on a break. So yeah, it's 3 and myself. We're 4 in total.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And going to community, how would you say that in terms of your community involvement has helped you grow within your career? If you can share a bit about that.
Absolutely. I think I remember going back to the year that I left DCT. That winter, I saw a Basquiat exhibition in London, and that exhibition, I got to the archive section, and it really changed the way I saw things, and it really kind of highlighted the importance of community and the grassroots. You see images of like Andy Warhol, Madonna, and they're all hanging out, they're all together. Gallerists were really kind of popping up. The museums were being built. So it's a really interesting parallel that resembles the parallel we're in currently. Mm. So I went and I had a talk in Kuwait at the Nuqat talks that they no longer have now. And I spoke about the importance of this, like really highlighting community, because a gallery can only progress if there are people for them to put into the gallery. A museum can only truly be a museum relevant to the space that it's in when it starts reflecting what's outside. So I spoke about that in 2017, or at this point 18, early 2018, and subhanallah, lo and behold, now we're really in the crux of it. Right. We're really kind of emulating this idea and highlighting it. And so I really believe there's no one that's gonna get anywhere unless you have a healthy community around you. Right. To say أنا كشخص, me, I did this on my own. No, there's a healthy ground and a giving ground, and if you're gonna give, it's gonna give back. Right. And so to really, I think my team hear this all the time from me, but it's like, if we could all really just, in a very utopian idea, hold hands and kumbaya together, then we can, and we will, and we have been,
Absolutely.
So I think it's a true testament, to look back at our contemporary history via sort of the conceptual art movement that took place here, because they progressed because they held hands. They progressed because literature wasn't separate to the arts, the visual arts. They were all in it, and they all held hands, and it was thinkers, writers, artists, filmmakers, everyone under the creative sun came together. They would meet up informally. They would support one another, فكريا, conceptually, so. And they furthered the language, and they furthered the dialogue, and they did it with the support of one another. Right. And so it's been happening, and it will continue to happen. And of course, it's been a great and really big part of my kind of becoming, I would say.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think obviously the creative community is the backbone of the creative economy. Mm-hmm. Without it, we're not even going to be here. So I think it's very interesting, and I completely agree with you. Ahlam, if we can, maybe as a closing question as we come to the end of the panel, what advice would you have to share with emerging creatives who are aspiring to turn their passion into a profession?
Yeah, I think definitely it varies depending on people's situations. It varies depending on which industry that you're in. But I would say, what I said at the beginning, which is spend some time in that area, whatever area of interest that is, and whether it's part-time to start with, whether it's on a volunteer basis. But sometimes when we have full-time jobs, it allows us to also volunteer on the side, or to also manage doing something else on the side. Study about what's out there in our market here in the UAE. Who else is in the same area? Have conversations, networking. You asked the question about networking. It's everything. It's extremely important. So definitely go out and pursue it and see what opportunities there are. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities following the video that we saw at the beginning of this session. It's such a hopeful hopeful time for the art scene, where all these initiatives are being put in place by government, and they're being put in place across different sides, the business side of things, on the artist level, on the ground, to make sure this whole ecosystem comes together and is able to thrive, and artists are able to practice their art and make their money, and it all feeds into the economy of the country. So I think it's a really hopeful time, and what's to come is a time of change and a time for collaboration, and I think it's a really exciting time for all of us in this industry.
Great. Thank you, Hlam. Munira, are there common mistakes that you would tell aspiring artists to avoid? What advice can you share on that?
Absolutely. I think the one kind of thing that I catch myself repeating a lot, especially with younger artists, is simplify your language. Really tell me simply what it is that you're doing. I think the art scene could be very intimidating with its vocabulary and its extra intimidation all around, And I remember being intimidated myself, and it's like, how do you get to the point where you surpass that? Is the moment that you really understand the truth that you're trying to say, and then you can flower it and dress it up as you wish, But at the very beginning, simplify your thoughts, simplify your what you're trying to say, so that I can coherently understand you on the other side. And at the same time, also keep pursuing and keep trying. Don't stick to one thing without being really sure of it. And last but not least, don't forget your research. Like, it's dire, you have to have research within your practice, so that you have something that you're falling back on.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much. I think I'd love to open up the floor before we wrap up our discussion to any questions from our audience. All right. As we raise awareness about the viable career options we have in the creative industries, we hope all of you in the room got the chance to grasp the strong takeaways that were shared by our panelists today in shaping their own journeys and insights. We hope you enjoyed our session, and we wish you all the best as you continue to pursue your career in the creative industries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.